Welcome for this session of formative assessment. So in formative assessment, we expect that you will have already received the questions and done them already before you watch this video, so that this video will help us to get the answers for the formative assessment. In this case, we will start by the first part, which is in the interactive unit or interactive book. Here we are having vocabulary words which may include biosphere, biodiversity, species, biology, organism, cell, metabolism, and DNA. In the first question, it was dash is the scientific study of living things. So the scientific study of living things is basically biology, as you can see here. So how do you know this? We know that in Greek, bio means life, bio means life, and logos means study. So in this case, if we put them together, biology basically means the scientific study of living things. So I would expect you to have written biology here. In question number 2, we are having genetic material that is passed on. Genetic material that is passed on. Genetic material that is passed on to offspring is called dash. So if someone would maybe say it's organism, that will not be correct. So the best answer here would be the DNA. We know that all organisms or all animals and plants and even other organisms will pass their genetic material. They will pass their genetic material, in this case the DNA to their offspring. So the answer would be DNA. In this other case, dash is a particular type of living thing that can breed and reproduce, that is species. So if an organism or of a particular population is able to breed, For example, we can take an example here. If you are having a dog breeding with a dog, then they will produce a dog. If you took a cat and a dog, they may not reproduce at all, because their genetic makeup is not right. If you took another example, like for example a horse with a donkey, then they would produce a mule. But the mule as we know it is sterile. Sterile means it is not a fertile offspring. And for them to be regarded as species, organisms of the same species, they must also produce organisms which can also produce other organisms. The next one is the smallest unit of life is that. So the smallest unit of life is the cell. We know that according to the cell theory, all organisms come from existing cells. So all cells come from existing cells. All cells come from existing cells. And also, all organisms use energy for metabolism. All organisms use energy for metabolism. All organisms use energy for metabolism, which is the breakdown and building up of molecules necessary for life. So the word metabolism, as we discussed earlier, basically is the breaking down and the building up of material. In fact, we said the terms that may be used for breaking down here and building up is anabolism, and catabolism. So anabolism, building up, and catabolism breaking down, and catabolism breaking down. The next question is, put the following three terms in order from smallest to largest: species, biosphere, and cell. So if we are looking at this, we could use a model. If we have a model here, then the model will show us that on the higher level we would have the biosphere, which is of course all the part of the earth that can sustain life. And as we go down, we would have species. We would have species, which is individual organisms that are able to breed and reproduce, and down, all organisms are made of the smallest unit of life, which is the cell. So the cell would be of, this would be correct, this would be the correct answer. So if you wrote this, then you would have got your answers correct for this formative assessment. The next thing here is list at least three characteristics. List at least three characteristics that living things share. In this case, the question did not ask us to explain. So since the question didn't ask us to explain, neither did it ask us to describe. So what we are supposed to do here is only but to list. So the first one is need for energy. The second one is response to environment. And the third one is reproduction and development. We might have others depending on how you take the unit. The next one is, how are species related to the concept of biodiversity? How are species related to the concept of biodiversity? So we know that biodiversity here, basically bio is, we said, life. Bio here would stand for life. Bio would stand for life. Bio would stand for life. So bio would stand here for life. And diversity would stand for how diverse this life is. How diverse this life is. So how diverse a life is. So life and diversity. So how diverse, or how organisms are diverse. So species is related to the concept of biodiversity in what sense? So species is related with biodiversity because if we are studying the different species, or how diverse they are, then if we have no species, then there would be no biodiversity, because biodiversity basically is the study of how life is diverse. The study of how life is diverse, or how we have different types of organisms, or species. How we have different types of organisms or species. So we will stop here for this video, and